Hello, hello, beautiful people, mi gente bella. Welcome to another edition of Santana Says, where we talk about everything from roadblocks to relationships, all the things in between, and the overall journey of a life. I am excited as always to bring you another edition of the show, to get into all these topics, to talk about all these things. And I'm also always excited to be able to tell you all about a celebration, what is going down, and all these different things that are happening. If you have not heard by now, and I don't know where you've been at if you haven't, Santana Says is part of the Revolt Network. Y'all see how I like to roll the R with it, though I still did that? All right, cool. We are part of that. And so we are also part of it with some other great, folks and podcasts. And I'm hoping to also have some of them. We gonna cross collaborate. We should be a familia up in here, and so I'm hoping that that'll definitely go down as we continue to unfold and unveil all these things that we have going on. But we are definitely part of that, y'all, and it is exciting. Definitely exciting. It's an incredible opportunity, but it's also the fact that shout out to the growth. You know what I mean? And so like the fact that we've been able to have the show for a little over a year now. We've been able to touch on so many great topics, and somebody saw it and decided they wanted it to be transmitted to other audiences, and I am immensely grateful for that. I cannot be more ecstatic. And so if you are one of the new listeners who is now tuning into Santana Says, thanks to us being on the Revolt Network, shout out to you. Welcome to the familia, welcome to the conversation, and welcome to the invitation. Santana Says was absolutely made to be able to delve into topics on mental health, healthy relationships, and everything. But it's also an invitation to embrace life on the other side of trauma. It's an invitation to embrace a life of healing. And it's also an invitation to, an invitation to embrace a life of freedom. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of things, that hold us back. There are a lot of things that definitely hold us captive. And I made the show because I was tired of that. And I don't want that. I definitely don't want that for us. Have never wanted it and don't want to see it happen in the future. So I am excited to continue to do that even bigger and better, but with other people that stand behind that, mission. And so with that being said, y'all, it is school season for a lot of us. I was super ecstatic because my baby started a new school. They went from charter to private. And so it's also a school closest to the house. There's a lot of perks, They can also use the transportation system. Timing has changed. It's a lot of things. But they were also very excited because it was a better environment. Overall, they were not feeling where the school they were at before. Neither was their mother. I was not a fan. Needed to make that change. And I'm very, proud of my babies for embracing that change and being able to take it on. I'm also happy to have my time. Shout out to all the parents that are happy to have dropped the babies off at school because we get our little time back during the day, all right? Because it was a lot, Trying to entertain them all summer is a job in and of itself, okay? It was fun. It was exciting. Summer is my favorite, absolute favorite season, but it's a lot. And it was a lot going on. And there's also been a lot of heat, in Cleveland. I am coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio. And I am telling you, it's been a little hot out here. So y'all, if y'all feeling that heat, y'all feeling that exhaustion, I understand. And I am here with you. And I understand that. And so it was definitely great to switch that up, to go back to a routine. And that's what it's feeling like with Santana Says as well. We are back. We're, setting up our routines. We're getting things going. And it's been awesome. But I do feel like that's also where lives are. And a lot of things, a lot of us are starting to get in those adjustment periods, right? We're starting to try to figure out how to get back to normalcy. And there are a lot of people who are having to adjust to that after facing some difficult moments. And that was also what happened with my children as well. So not only was it that they had experienced some difficult moments in school with the environment itself, a lot of teachers had left, there was high turnover, but they really got to see, and no matter, even though as young as they may be, because for those who don't know, I have a second grader, a fourth grader, and now I got a sixth grader. I got somebody in middle school. Craziness. I swear, you don't really realize, how fast time goes until you have children and you see them get older. It is insane. And so, just seeing that back to me is just, I'm already on high school in my mind. It's a lot. I'm trying to process, but it's a lot to realize and take in. And I'm telling y'all, I'm trying to get ready. And if y'all got tips for me, what's up? I also welcome them. But it's definitely a lot, like it's a whole experience, but they did encounter a lot of bullying. They saw a lot of things happen. They did, there was some negative relationships that happened, friendships. My baby we're even talking about friends who they're realizing don't really support them, even though, they happen to be there for them. They're already touching on some big topics, you know what I mean? Some of the ones that we talk about on the show. And I was like, wow, it really is fascinating to see that it does play out even with our children. And again, this is why it's important to have these critical conversations, us as adults, but also with our kids. Because, and again, the kids that we may have birthed, and if I'm talking to people who are not parents, even the kids we don't, because that we have not necessarily birthed, but that we definitely have influence on and have access to. They definitely need those conversations. And I can also tell you that we did have a great summer, though. It was lit, okay? Like, we had a lot of great times. There was a lot of great things that we did. And the biggest highlight was that I took my babies on the Disney mother freaking cruise, y'all. It was amazing. I'm literally like, those who can't see me, I'm like embracing the entire table that I'm sitting at. I am excited just talking about it and just thinking about it. It was an incredible accomplishment. I feel like the dream come true. And not only because I'm a Disney fan, but because goodness gracious. They talk about customer service. I know like Chick-fil-A is known for their incredible customer service. And then I would say Disney, of course. Yo, that model that they use, whatever it is, it's incredible and it needs to be duplicated across all specters and spheres. Like, there was nothing that I didn't ask for that was not addressed, and in like superb fashion. I mean, there's no moment where I was bored. There was literally always something to do. And like, nah, if anybody's on the fence about, that, and yes, is it expensive? It was not cheap. But it was worth every single penny. Like, I promise you, it was one of the best experiences of my entire life, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I happen to have, a chunk of change that I had set aside, so I was able to do this, like comfortably. And so, of course, I would not want anyone to put themselves in a predicament where you do this at the expense of something else. Absolutely not. I'm not, like encouraging that. But I will say that if you're able to work it out, maybe even get yourself on that payment plan. If you book it out, a year in advance, pay it off slowly. But listen, give yourself the life of luxury. It was awesome. And it really just reminded me, like, I don't want to work all the time and never feel the reward. I don't. I also don't want to work all the time and never feel rest. And I'm telling you, that experience itself was one time where I got to see two things at once, reward and rest at the same time. And it was amazing and it was wonderful to enjoy it, to embrace it. But I realized, we deserve it. Oh, we deserve. And that's the thing. I know I've been having many conversations about that, and I feel like that's always been one of the main reminders. Y'all, we deserve. No, we do not deserve to always be like exploiting ourselves and exhausting ourselves and extending ourselves and doing all these things. No, we deserve to also be taken care of, to be supported, to be freaking celebrated, honored, feel good. And my goodness, and really just feel like we are the amazing people that we are because we are. And because we work hard and because we do a lot and we give a lot of ourselves to other people. And so if there's a moment where we can, like I said, have that be validated, let's do that. Let's absolutely do that. Or have it be recognized. We should. And so my babies, not only did they really enjoy it, but I remember my middle child, man, it was the most heartfelt moment because that girl, they were doing like the finale. Because everything they do, like I said, is amazing. Like they do it, it's so fly. They were having the finale, and it was like this glitter that like just came from the ceiling, and we just didn't even know like where did it come from, and it's just like falling on us, making us feel like freaking superstars, and it was just awesome. And so my baby like hugged me, and she absolutely thanked me, for having gone on this experience. But she also said, "Mommy, this was just so great after the year that we had and everything that we had been through. I'm so glad we got to do this, y'all." That baby, she got me. You know what I mean? She really did, because I'm like, dang, our babies be carrying, man. They be carrying weights. And I'm telling you, it's heartbreaking that sometimes we don't see that or we dismiss it. We dismiss. And I know it happens, because I was just talking to a student today. Even on the way over here, okay, to record this episode, literally mental health, I don't escape it. I know that I signed up for this because I am a therapist, which also, shout out if you didn't hear, but I am a licensed therapist now. I am so excited. And so, yes, shout out, to all the, counselors out there, but also, like I said, everybody that's, getting different accomplishments going. That was also a very big dream for me. So I know that I signed up for this life. So of course I'm going to talk about things mental health because that is my line of work. But even in regular conversations, as I was on my way over here, a student was telling me that they've been going through a lot. They've experienced a lot of grief. Their feelings, they just have so many of them that they don't know where to put them. But when they tried to talk to their parent about it, the parent wasn't trying to have the conversation. They essentially had let them know, or the child grew up seeing how their parent went through a lot, but had never spoken to anyone themselves. But on top of that, as the child was trying to say it, the parent was kind of like, well, I mean, you're probably just trying to get out your punishment. You might be just doing this for attention, or just, all right, like, that's cool that you're going through it, but like, okay, like, what else do you want? Like, what else do you want from me? Or what else do you need to do? Like, you need to get over that, essentially. And it's like, those are a lot of the messages, that students hear. And then they feel like, and this student, what was also just, the part that got to me the most was they were telling me that I actually do want to talk to somebody, though. That's the thing. I'm not in a place where I don't want to talk about it, but I just really thought that if there was anybody that I could talk to, I wanted that to be my parent first. And I feel like if anybody knows me better, it should be my parent. And so it was really hard to hear that wasn't the case, and the parent was trying to brush it off, and for many reasons, right? It could be because the parent was busy. It could be because the parent had just placed this child on punishment because they were on punishment for having done some things at school. But that's why I just feel like all these things are interrelated, man. It'd be a lot of the kids that have a lot of behavior issues that are going through things and do need someone to talk to. And am I saying that because of that we shouldn't punish those kids and only provide resources? No, I'm trying to tell you we need to do both. And we need to have more things that allow for restoration to happen, and not just trying to rectify. We need to have a relationship with both of those things. Some of the students need to realize, yes, that they did something wrong and that there is a consequence for their actions, but they also need to be able to if there is something else that's contributing to the action, be able to know about that as well, and be able to know, can they make the situation better? Not only for themselves, but for whoever they impacted. Is there an opportunity for there to be an apology? Is there a chance for remediation or a mediation? Two different things, but is there a place for that? Is there a place to maybe have a more constructive or productive conversation with a professional? Should that be a teacher or a staff member, whatever? Like, students need that. You know what I mean? They need that. They need to start developing those skills now so that they can take them into the future. And if we don't do it and we tell them, like, your situation is not really that serious, or I don't really have time, or I already got my own stuff going on, we're letting them know that we're not welcoming that. We're not helping them to develop the skills around it, and we're teaching them that those things don't get discussed and those things do get buried. And the best way to really manage your emotions is to not deal with them. And then those kids grow up and become the adults that we now know, and that we now date, that we encounter. And that's the thing that, that's the effect that we're essentially, that hopefully we could try to avoid, but those are the things that don't help us. And so man, it really touched my heart that my baby was able to say that, but I was glad that I did provide some kind of experience for her to also relax and enjoy and really just take pleasure in life, and not feel like she was having to put on or whatever, because she deals with a lot of pressures as well. And she's a very academic child, but she's already started to develop that reputation for being the good kid in school. And with that comes, I can't fail. She's already been thinking about that. She brings it to the athletic field as well. She will be in practices critiquing herself so much. She will absolutely, beat herself up for anything that, any mistake that she's made. And it's really hard for her to see past that, and all of that. And those are the other kids that I want us to make sure that we don't forget about. Because if y'all do recall, that was the kid I was. I was that quiet kid who was always trying to get things done and, always turn in her work, absolutely, but it was way too overly committed to her schoolwork because it was a great distraction from the other things that were going on. So sometimes those overachievers are also people that are suffering from a lot of emotional, difficulties and struggles, and they're not always saying them out loud. So, we got to be able to pay attention to both. And we can't always give over attention to the ones that are sometimes trying to seek that out. We need to figure out to give students and youth in general healthier ways for them to get attention, because the other thing is that there are individuals out there who try to, that is also their coping mechanism. They essentially, they crave attention. They always want attention, and they're they try to get it any way they can. And the thing is, if we always give in to that, that's also not, great either. We need to be able to establish balances, like I said, with the youth, but also as adults, because that's something that's also been a theme that's been coming up for sure in the sessions that I've had is how can we balance that? Just because you've been wronged by a person in the past, does that mean that you need to mistrust everybody else in the world? No. And why does the person who hurt you get the satisfaction of now having control over you even when they're no longer around? You're mistrusting people from a wrong that was caused to you, maybe by a past relationship, maybe by a past friend, but now everybody has to suffer? Like, you're not going to give yourself any chance to meet anyone new because you're still suffering from the lack of trust that you had before or from a past hurt. You're not going to allow yourself any opportunity to meet someone or interact with someone because of trauma that you faced and because of the abuse that you experienced. You're not going to let yourself live your life fully because you're still feeling like you can't fully be able to accept what's happening now, and you don't see these as new opportunities, or you don't think that you are allowed to, or you don't even know how to, or you don't think you can. You don't necessarily want that to be your thought process, but essentially those are the things that do happen to us. And those are the kind of things that haunt us and stay with us unless we try to achieve that balance. And so that's why I love that we were able to, get into that anytime that we're able to do that. But also even, most recently, I know I had a guest on and he was talking about mental health. The thing that he had not shared that he had shared with me is that he went to therapy. So not only is he a fan of mental health, he finally gets the courage and he goes to see a counselor. Great. The thing though is, and it was virtual at that, So he's able to be at home, comfortable in his own setting, be in his living room, do his thing. But the thing is, he was with, the therapist. He finally, like I said, gets the courage to do this. He's, taking advantage of this service and taking this on. But when he goes to meet with the therapist was like in a wife beater, was barely had an agenda with what they were doing, and essentially wasn't really taking it seriously. And it's like, when I hear those things, y'all, as a therapist, I am upset. Okay, ain't no way I need you to be making a mockery of this, career. With all the stuff I had to do, in order to be licensed and in order to do this, best believe I'm gonna take this seriously. But also, I didn't even get into it in the first place if I didn't take it seriously, if it wasn't a passion of mine, and if it wasn't because I wanted to be able to help people. So to know that there's people out there that, don't do that and don't also see it as something that they should value, come on now. Not only is that heartbreaking, but that's infuriating, quite frankly. But it was definitely something that I remember getting upset about, hearing that. But at the same time, I want to remind us that even counselors and other people that provide services are still human beings. They are still humans. And the people that, essentially we go out to for all that, whenever we're trying to, form interactions with people, and whenever we're trying to seek something from another individual, be that professional, whoever it may be, we're not going to always get along with everybody that exists in the world. We're not always going to, gel or fit with certain people. And in therapy, that's going to be one of the big pieces. And the thing is with him, I'm glad it did not deter him, right? Or turn him off from wanting to still improve his mental health, and really dive more into it. But it could have. And I do know that that's the risk that it posed, and that's the danger when you come across someone and you try to seek help from someone and that person wrongs you, or that person insults you, or that person makes you feel worse for the thing that is going on. I know that is not, that's what I mean, that's why I don't take it lightly. But I do want to remind us that it is an issue of fit. And so sometimes as you are seeking out services, you may not, like I said, immediately find someone that you immediately like. And I want you to know that's okay. And I want you to still be able to seek out other individuals, whoever may be right for you. Because even me, I do have a certain style with the way I do things. It doesn't work for everybody though. Not everybody likes my certain, talkative, but also grounded style. Some people don't, some people want it to be, they may want to have a certain structure, that they may be after. They may want to have certain activities. Some people like art and they want to incorporate art into their therapy and they want to have more of that. I can definitely speak to it, but it may not necessarily be my area of expertise. And I also, as a therapist, got to be willing to recognize that too. If I don't also fit with the person, or I know that this person is outside of my scope of practice and I may not be the best person for them, I got to be able to let that go. And put them with the best person that is for them, that can put them on the better path. Why not? And I just feel like I got to hold on to them just to hold on. Like, that doesn't work either. So, like, we got to be able to know, when we can do that and when's the best time. And what I love, by the way, y'all, speaking of the summer and, like, wrapping those things up, I love that I got to see mental health in movies. And so whenever that happens, I love, I really do love it. But I also want to highlight it. And so Bad Boys, like the most ultimate one with, my husband, Jacob, Scipio, definitely was in there. And so Will Smith, the character that played Will Smith's son, yeah, definitely, let him know. We definitely married in my mind. But he was just great. He was definitely a great actor in the movie. But who I'm talking about is Will Smith. Will Smith essentially was in there this time. He was doing his thing, and I love that movie. I love, like, action and comedy, y'all. Invite me, I'ma definitely want to watch that. And so that's what I used to love about Rush Hour, too. Like, such a great combination of comedy and action, and you got a little great plot in there. You got me all day. And so I loved it. And the thing is, but in the character that Will Smith played, you know what I'm saying, like, Mike Lowry, he was, of course, a police officer. He was dealing with a lot of pressures, but you actually got to see his mental health play out, y'all. He was actually having full-blown, what it came across to me as a bit of an anxiety attack. It's a bit of an anxiety attack, and they were a lot more calmer. Same things can happen with things like seizures. Seizures sometimes can also come, like, very, like, you can actually see it, like, occur, and, like, when the person is actually having one, like, they literally shake, like, there's physical symptoms and things that happen that the person experiences. But with attacks, there's an anxiety attack, is something that some people have experienced, and some people experience panic attacks. Either one, a lot of people feel like shortness of breath. A lot of time your heart starts racing. You feel very overwhelmed, and, like, your body may shake. You start to sweat. A lot of things can occur. But they're not always so, like, violent about it, or, like, very expressive. Like, some of them are also very calm. Like, these things still happen, but a person isn't, you don't see them, like, losing consciousness or things like that. And so, like, it's not marked by things that are, very high up or very activated. And so in the movie, that's what was happening to him. He was definitely experiencing what I believe to be an anxiety attack. Panic attacks, though, are usually marked by a fear of dying. So usually what's happening is you feel like you just cannot go on, and this is it for you. Usually that's more of a panic attack. Anxiety, you're also worried about something. There's some kind of stressor that's bringing it on, and there's different things that are happening. And so there's a bit of a difference there. But he did experience that. And even though, they did make a joke, towards it, and, like, what I'm saying, of course, Martin Lawrence's character, of course, like, ended up slapping him in the end, and, like, at one point to, like, snap him out of it. It did show, though, that a lot of pressures, when they become overwhelming, they do show up like that. And I am telling you, I have had a lot of clients lately who have experienced that. And I know I may be speaking to people, right, who may be suffering from that. And they just have no idea, like, what is this? Like, these are people with full-time jobs, with access to resources. Some of them even have great coping mechanisms, like they meditate or they do Reiki or whatever. And I'm telling you, these were still people suffering from these attacks that I'm telling you, anxiety and panic. And so it does happen. And in the movie, he was a full-blown police officer, what I'm saying, with access to support and things like that. He was married, what I mean? But it was like, it didn't stop him from still having that anxiety attack. And in other people's cases, they ain't stopping you from still experiencing that panic attack. And it's like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there will be ways, if we try to bury our issues, that they're still going to find us. And there are ways that if we try to distract ourselves from that issue, that it's still going to come up. And so I think it was awesome that the movie showed that, I was able to have that come out. And so, like, we were able to, see that on that, like, in that platform or, like, that stage, and we were able to see that happen. And of course, my other favorite is definitely Inside Out too, what I'm saying? And so I know by now you probably heard from other people, what I'm saying, who have commented on it, but it was a great movie. And the thing is that the reason why I want to highlight it still is not only because it's my first time talking about it, but also because it is such a great tool that I've been using, y'all. It paints anxiety so well. So well, and I've been using it so much in sessions with people, in conversations, everywhere. Because the thing is, what I loved about it is not only how it showed anxiety, like how overwhelming it can be, but because anxiety was trying to protect. At the end of the day, there was an element of protection that was in there. And a lot of our emotions do try to help us. A lot of the things that we cling to is because they make us feel good in the moment. It does feel good. Right now, it feels good for me to worry. Like, I'm used to worrying, and, like, I don't really know what else to do. So, like, this is, or it's always been the thing that I do. So like this is what I'm doing now. Like this is all I know. This is what I'm familiar with. And so we do it. But also it's what we lean into as well. If we have nothing else to go to, we have nothing else that grounds us, we are going to lean in to those overwhelming emotions. We don't know how to escape those emotions. And so we end up, like I said, going further into those things. And we saw that play out in that movie as well. So I love that with an action, and a very classic movie, we saw that play out. And even with an animated movie like that one, which was groundbreaking, by the way, because a lot of people watched it and it made a lot of money. I'm glad that we actually got to see those things played out and talked about and discussed, and so that is why I like to dedicate mine. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it's a new thing. Like I just decided, like, let's talk about mental health just because like it's the wave or because it's cool now to talk about. But because no, it's always been an issue and it always will be. As long as we're humans, as long as we are imperfect, and as long as we have emotions, stuff gonna go down. You know what I'm saying? We're always gonna react to things differently. We're gonna see things from different ways, and we are going to react to things differently as well. There are people growing up in same households and still reacting to things very differently. We have siblings that, may have been raised by same parents, and all these environments and all of that, and still get raised in totally different ways. And see the world completely differently, than their counterpart. And so like, it happens. It definitely does happen. But also the way that I'm seeing this happen is definitely when it comes to, relationships as well. And so like the other thing has definitely been, a topic and ways I've seen this play out is that there are, a lot of people that are in constant relationships or trying to get into them, but they are experiencing a lot of grief there too, and a lot of, issues that do affect their mental health. Because the other thing that I'm a fan of currently, and I'm sure a lot of you have watched it, if you haven't watched it, I don't know how, but Pop the Balloon. Oh no, that is, it's definitely a very super, super interesting show. Well, not just that it's super interesting, super engaging show. Okay. You know what I mean? Like a very attractive show. So shout out to Arlette, who has created this great show, Pop the Balloon or Find Love, whatever. Man, as a person who talks about relationships, yes, definitely have seen a few of those. Absolutely been analyzing the crap out of them and getting a kick out of everybody's comments. Because listen, people be going in. But the thing is, Pop the Balloon is just very like reflective of not only the dating scene, but it's also very reflective of like a lot of the platforms that currently exist. A lot of dating apps are just like Pop the Balloon. You know what I'm saying? You swipe, swipe, swipe. You see a person, you kind of are judging based on their appearance. Essentially, you may get to know them a little bit more on their profile. You may even venture to have a conversation with them after the fact. But before that, there's a lot of judgment that happens, like off the bat. You don't usually have a person pop a balloon in your face, however, on an app. Like it's a little quieter that way. But this just brings it more to the center. Yes, I think it's interesting how there's a lot of people on there who do it for clout, who are just trying to like increase their digital, presence, and all that, but an online presence. But at the same time, I also think that it is how the dating scene is. So I think it's funny, like that is what we encounter. You know what I mean, right? Like as individuals out here trying to date, we encounter a lot of people like that who lead with their egos. We have some people who are honestly trying to find something good. We have some people who are literally rushing to get married tomorrow, and as a result, I don't think it matters who they marry. I think they're just willing to do whoever is willing to do it with them. You know what I mean? Like we got a mixture of that, and then we got people who are still figuring it out. So we got all that stuff that's happening. And I think Pop the Balloon definitely provides a chance for you to see that play out. And also, very like quite aggressively, you know what I'm saying? Or like very assertively, but also, like I said, very outwardly too, is what we see. And the host, she knows what she's doing because of course she's generating something that people want to watch. But she'll definitely ask a lot of follow-up questions that get the person to continue to either put the person down. I mean, it's really supposed to be so that they can provide a more like complete response to her question. But some of the times too, it does allow the person to further analyze, you know what I mean, the person that's on there. And so they end up really like, that person is definitely very scrutinized. And so, and a lot of people on there are definitely very nervous because they're literally on display in one of the biggest ways possible and on a very big platform, which has only grown now. So, I mean, I'm sure it's even more people that have seen it. And so, it's a big thing. But the thing is that even when it comes to those relationships and tying it back to what I said earlier about, counseling as well, I do believe that there's somebody out there for everybody, hopefully, you know what I mean? Maybe it's the optimist in me, but I do feel like there is someone out there that is a good fit for you as an individual, you know? But there's also, when it comes, like I said, like when I told you with counseling, you do have to also be able to seek out the right person for you on the professional side that can assist you, and in relationships also. And you do not need to fault yourself if you find yourself with someone who isn't the right person for you, but you also don't need to make excuses for that person either. And so in an effort to try to make yourself better, you know, feel better in that situation, or because you don't want to face life without that person, or, you know, whatever it may be, you essentially, you know, do try to over explain that situation and justify it, you know, in your mind, and really, you know, try to force a situation that really you should be trying to get out of, you know, and like, you know, and also we're ignoring, you know, because on that show too, like with Pop the Balloon, there's a lot of red flags, you know, like we've talked about that, you know, here on the show. But on that show, you get to see them. And so some people, it's interesting to me how for some people, the red flags were attractive and they were like running towards a person that was like outwardly saying red flags. And for other people, they wanted nothing to do with that, you know, and some people were being criticized for not wanting to entertain the red flags. It was interesting to see how different people interpret that, you know what I mean? And how they were seeing it, because I'm like, I would run away from that situation as well. I don't think, like one woman, she essentially got criticized because, you know, somebody asked her about her past relationship. What would you do differently? And she didn't want to answer the question. I'm with you, sis. I'm with you. Because you don't owe anybody anything up front. You know what I mean? If you're not in a relationship and if you're just dating and getting to know one another, but also it's not always necessarily a good way to judge and, you know, go into a new situation. You need to give that new situation new energy and new perspective. You don't need to be running it back based on, you know what I'm saying, what old boy did, what old girl did, or anybody else in between. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to base it off of that. And you should be able to come at it with fresh eyes. And I would hope that a person who is pursuing you would appreciate that you are not judging them based on the actions of someone else, especially somebody that they don't even know and that they have no control over. You know what I mean? And so we should be able to allow ourselves a chance to do that. I've also seen people get criticized on there, you know, based on like career choices. Height was crazy. And I remember seeing, you know, like different things like that. But, you know, I get it. We definitely look at people with our eyes first, but we also got to be able to make sure that the character that is behind that we see. And the only other red flag that I definitely want to point out was, man, I just saw recently my man's who was like the king, I don't know if he was a podcaster exactly, like, but just the king of all kings and just Mr. Supreme. And, you know, he was essentially proposing to the girl before she even left the stage. Like the girl was he was asking her questions, continuing to do follow-up and just love bombing her. Like he just kept asking like her all these questions. He was listening, but then like it was just like enough time to just ask another question, you know what I mean? And to get in whatever response he wanted. And he was essentially asking her where she wanted to live already, how many kids she wanted to have. He was setting his whole life plan up. And he didn't even know that girl. So it's just like, we got to pay attention to that too. We don't need people that are extra eager. There might be some behind that. So we need to give ourselves time and opportunity. And we also don't need to be the extra eager person, you know, and not give ourselves time. There's always time, y'all. There's always time. Always time to figure things out. There is always time to discover. And there was always time to make sure that you are in a situation that is good for you and not just settling for the situation that was available to you. Okay? Because sometimes we do that too. And just because, you know, that option is out there, you know what I'm saying? We do it with jobs, you know, we may do it with other things in our life. We're like, yo, this gotta be it. You know what I mean? This gotta be the thing for me because, you know, it's right here and it's in my, not necessarily, you know what I'm saying? It may be what's in front of you, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's for you. And of course, there's so much more on that I want to be able to like continue to touch on and you know and explore. But we're gonna keep doing that with future episodes. So, with that being said, I'm glad that this was one of my first solos, you know, officially with the Revolt Podcast Network, and of course, first of many. You know what I'm saying? Because we just started this thing, so of course we will continue to do that. We're gonna continue to have more things, more guests, more conversations, more everything. And so I want you to, like I said, feel free to join in on that. Feel free to provide feedback on it. You could definitely find me if you don't, like I said, if you're not tapped in. This podcast is available on all your, streaming platforms. Everywhere, of course, it's part of the Revolt Podcast Network, but you can also find me on YouTube if you're not already watching me on there. And you can also tap in on social media. And so TikTok and Instagram, I am Santana Says with 1_ at the end. But I also have my email, santanasayspodcast@gmail.com. And so that is SANTANASAYS podcast@gmail.com. So, you know what I'm saying? Find me wherever, you know what I'm saying? But either way, tap in, get connected. Let me know how you feeling. Let me know what you want to see. And again, let me know, how you feel, because of course we like to drop these episodes on every other Feel Good Friday. And we're going to try to, make you feel better, make you feel good, tap into your healing, and also embrace your freedom. So that is what we are going to continue to do. And I can only do that with you. So thank you. But also, I appreciate you, and, I want to work with you and make sure that we can continue to do whatever is going to be best for you and to help you and I both grow and glow together. Thank you.